Vacuuming and polishing are necessary household chores, and not everyone's idea of fun. Claire Hardacre and her friend were trying to get Claire's house clean before her mum got home from work, but it didn't take much for the cleaning to turn into a spray fight.
My friend got another can of polish. We would attack each other. It was really funny.
Well, it was fun to begin with, until Claire suddenly started to become short of breath. Claire suffers from asthma. Messing around with the spray polish was enough to set off an attack.
Claire, are you alright?
Well, when I know that I'm having an asthma attack, my chest starts to get tight, and then my lips go all tingling and I can't feel my legs. And then I start breathing in and out really fast because I feel like I can't catch my breath, and through this process I can just take my inhaler 5 or 6 times.
In an emergency, Claire's medication has an immediate effect. It contains a drug which helps her to breathe more easily. A drug is simply a chemical which has an effect on the body, and we'll be looking at a number of different drugs in this programme. For Claire, drugs are vital. They keep her ass control and enable her to enjoy the things she likes doing most. As long as she's taken her inhaler, dancing won't bring on an attack, but she still gets out of breath more quickly than her classmate. The amount of air that Claire can breathe in and out of her lungs is reduced, so her lungs are having to work much harder. Her friend breathes much more slowly. So what's happening inside a healthy pair of lungs? Air travels in through the nose or mouth and down the windpipe. The medical name is the trachea. Before entering the lungs, the trachea branches into 2 tubes called bronchi. The trachea and bronchi are kept open by rings of fridge. Inside the lungs, these tubes subdivide even further. They form a network of smaller and smaller branching tubes called bronchioles. Place a small camera down the windpipe and you can see the path taken by each breath of air. The walls of the tubes are made of muscle. In a normal pair of lungs, the muscle is relaxed and the airways are wide open. It's easy for air to flow in and out. For an asthmatic, this flow of air is more difficult. Every day, Claire monitors how easily she can breathe out using a peak flow meter. It measures how much air she can exhale in a second. After 3 goes, she records her best attempt in a diary. A good reading for Claire is about 400, but when her asthma is bad, much lower. So why is less air able to get in and out of her lungs? In a normal lung, each bronchiole is wide open. In an asthmatic lung, the muscles lining the airways contract, making the diameter of each tube smaller. This restricts the amount of air which can enter or leave the lungs, and instead of being pink, the airways are red and inflamed. In a bad attack, an asthmatic can become desperate for air. Nobody knows exactly what causes asthma. Some attacks can be set off by pollen or hair from cats and dogs. But for Claire, the main trigger seems to be aerosols and dust. There's no cure, but drugs help reduce the likelihood of an attack. Every morning and evening, Claire takes a preventer. It contains a drug which reduces inflammation.
This is my reliever. I carry it around with me every day, and if I think that I'm going to have an asthma attack, I take it.
This drug immediately relaxes the muscles in her lungs and widens her bronchial tubes. Before inhalers were invented, the only treatment for asthma came from the natural world. For a long time, people have been using plants because they contain chemicals which have a medicinal effect. This is called ephedra. In Chinese, it's known as ma huang and has been used to treat asthma for over 2,000 years. In traditional Chinese medicine, ephedra is mixed with several other carefully chosen herbs. These are then boiled with water and made into a tea. The chemicals in the mixture work like Claire's inhaler, relaxing the muscles in the lungs' airways. Not all herbal remedies are made into drinks. Some are burnt and then inhaled. This contains a plant called thorn apple. It originated in India, but about 200 years ago became a popular asthma remedy in Europe. Another plant, kaolin, was used as a muscle relaxant in ancient Egypt. It contains a chemical similar to the ones used in today's inhalers. We use drugs to treat all sorts of illnesses, from everyday coughs and colds to much more serious diseases. While the drugs in these medicines and in Claire's inhaler are beneficial, other drugs can do you harm. What chemicals can damage your lungs? Everyone knows smoking is bad for you, but plenty of people still choose to do it. As well as being a health risk, it's also unpleasant for non-smokers, so smoking in public places is a controversial issue.
You get totally put off by your food and...
3 people who would prefer to sit in a smoke-free environment are James, Verity and Candida.
What gets me is like when they smoke on the bus and like the public transport and stuff, and then they sit at the back smoking away, yeah, and it's like really stuffy, and you open the window and they shout at you for opening the window.
Yeah, I hate it in restaurants when people are smoking behind you and you're eating a meal and you get totally put off by it.
I know, you come to a restaurant, yeah, you come to a restaurant to enjoy yourself, to have a meal, yeah, and then you have like people smoking around you. I don't get how they can enjoy the meal.
It really annoys me. With me, it's the smell. It is awful. Your hair and your clothes.
So why isn't this restaurant a smoke-free zone? Our team have a few questions for the manager.
Got some questions.
Why do you let people smoke in the restaurant?
Well, I feel if you stop people smoking in a restaurant like this, it will sort of affect the character of the place. You know, certainly business would suffer.
If you actually did decide to turn it into a non-smoking cafe, do you think you'd be able to maintain it?
I wholly believe that, you know, put sort of restrictions in that sense, it would affect business and we would lose customers. Put a restriction on smoking, definitely.
Our investigators' mission is to persuade people that public places, like restaurants, should be smoke-free. But first, they need hard evidence that smoking and being near smokers is damaging. To collect their information, they surfed the internet, wrote letters, read leaflets, and talked to the experts.
Hi, it's Verity from the Scientific Eye Office. Is it true that smoking makes you age quicker? Do you think there should be a ban on smoking in public places? Apart from cancer, how else does smoking do you harm?
To begin with, James wanted to find out more about the effects cigarettes have on the smokers themselves. Joyce Smith has been smoking since she was 16. Until 5 years ago, she was on between 20 and 30 cigarettes a day.
Hi.
Hello, James. Come in.
Joyce has a smoking-related disease called emphysema. It means she has difficulty breathing. She can't even make it to her front door and back without getting out of breath. Oxygen helps get her breathing back to normal.
Do you have to keep oxygen near you wherever you go?
Well, only when I'm really sort of bad. But it's, I have to keep oxygen in the house all the time. And I keep one in here, look, and there's one in the bedroom. And I have this wonderful long wandering lead when I'm at home, so that when I'm sort of really bad, I can sort of go to the loo or walk all around the house. And I don't get into difficulty.
Why did you start smoking?
Well, I started smoking when I was about 16, and I didn't like it. Really, the only reason I started was because everybody else did.
The problem is that over many years the cigarette smoke has damaged the most delicate part of Joyce's airways. At the end of each airway there are tiny air sacs. Each air sac is made up of hollow bubbles called alveoli. Millions of alveoli give the lungs the big surface area they need for oxygen and carbon dioxide to pass in and out. But smoking causes the delicate walls of the alveoli to break down. This reduces the surface area, so the sufferer gets easily short of breath. Joyce can no longer do the things she once took for granted, like unloading the washing machine.
Just doing that, really, as you can see, makes me really very breathless. And when you think that when you're normal, you just never even think about it. It's those sorts of differences that really bring it home to you.
In the Pathology Museum at Leeds University, parts of the body have been preserved for study. Candida is trying to find out more about the effects smoking has on the lungs. She's here to talk to medical student Caroline Henderson.
Well, smoking has quite a lot of effects on the lungs because that's the first place the smoke goes when you breathe it in. You can see in these lungs that are from somebody who hasn't smoked, they're all nice and pale and healthy. And here you can see some of the air passages, and that's how the air gets into your lungs. Whereas this is from somebody who's smoked a lot, and there's lots of black bits from the charcoal and the tar that they've breathed in. And here you can see a tumour, and that's cancer caused by smoking.
What's the latest information about passive smoking?
Well, it's always been thought that passive smoking is probably bad for your health, but a study has shown that people that live with smokers are more likely to have heart and lung problems, even if they don't smoke themselves.
This recent study estimates that passive smoking increases a non-smoker's risk of lung cancer by more than 25%. TV presenter Roy Castle believed that passive smoking was the cause of his cancer. After collecting all the evidence, it's time for James to put his case to a pro-smoker. Marjorie Nicholson campaigns for Forest, a group which supports smokers' rights.
I think people should be allowed to smoke in public places, for example restaurants.
In restaurants it should be up to the person who owns it to decide what policy they operate. For many of them, smokers are a large proportion of their custom, so they're not going to introduce a policy which is going to result in them losing money.
Being a pro-smoker, does this mean you actually encourage smoking?
Forest doesn't promote smoking, it doesn't advertise tobacco products or give any information about products. What we're concerned about is making sure that if an adult is a smoker, that they are accorded the same rights and respect in society as everybody else.
So what do you think? Should all public places be smoke-free zones? Smoking damages the lungs, but cigarettes also contain a chemical called nicotine, which affects the brain. Nicotine is a drug. It makes smoking addictive. Alcohol is another drug which affects them. People don't drink and smoke to help cure diseases. They drink and smoke because they like the effect. Nicotine is a mild stimulant, making the brain more alert, while alcohol is a relaxing sedative, which slows it down. Psychologists have been interested for a long time in exactly what effect alcohol has on the brain's activity. Hundreds of road accidents are caused every year because people drink and drive. Scientists are able to measure the effect drinking alcohol has on a person's ability to handle a car safely. But it's too dangerous to carry out experiments on the road. Instead, they use a computer simulator at the Institute for Transport Studies at Leeds University. A real car is linked up to a computer. It sits in front of a wide screen and doesn't move, but the sounds and views through the windscreen give the driver the impression that they're on the road. Kate hasn't had any alcohol and is driving quite safely. Her brain is functioning and reacting normally. Her reactions are tested by pressing the keys on a computer. She presses a key each time she sees a square light up on the screen. The time it takes between the light coming on and Kate pressing the button is her reaction time. 2 tests were carried out before she had anything to drink. Her average reaction times were 0.34 and 0.3 seconds. But how will this change after drinking a large measure of alcohol? A short while later, a breathalyzer shows that the alcohol has worked its way into Kate's blood supply. A reading of 0.08 on this breathalyzer is the legal alcohol limit for driving. 0.04 means she's within the limit, but have her reaction times changed? Kate's average reaction time is now only slightly longer. So what effect will this have on her driving? She keeps a safe distance from the car in front and brakes in good time. The alcohol hasn't affected Kate's behaviour enough for her to be a danger on the roads, so it's time for another drink. The breathalyzer now shows that she is over the legal limit. How will this affect her reaction times? Kate's average reaction time is now almost twice as long. A reading of 0.77 means that on the road she would travel almost twice as far before reacting and stepping on the brakes. It could make all the difference. Kate wasn't affected by just one drink, but other people could be. People are affected by alcohol in different ways. How would you set up an investigation to decide what the legal limit should be? And how would you make your test fair?